All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Bleh podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, joined my co-hosts Nick and Dan. And why not throw a little Francais in there, Dan? It just sounded better after today's Real Madrid result where we lost 2-0 away.
Oh, that was very blasé of you. So we can just keep on moving forward.
I'm cultured.
I have nothing to add here to this discussion. I took one semester of French in high school, and that did not necessarily go that well. So,
that's one more semester than I did. But yeah, here we go. Real Madrid midweek match review did not go the way we wanted, but we do have.
I got it. Bit. We need to score 2 goals. Yes, come on, we did it.
I mean, you start with do. Get to extra
either
time.
One. All right, but I'm just saying. There we go. Got it.
All right, participation medals in the mail. I got you. We're obviously going to talk about the costly mistakes that happened in the match today, and then maybe look ahead at the weekend. Again, Frank's got to juggle a lot of stuff. He's got to balance some things out. What is he going to do with this bloated squad? I think we'll really find out if he's wielding the axe or not. But we've usually kick it off a bunch of three-word match reviews, Dan. We've all been super busy. It's also a rough result. So we picked a couple. We're checking the box.
I mean, if you go on Twitter, there were a couple. Ethan had hibernating until August. I felt like that was a good one with a Dragon Ball Z Vegeta and a tank getting ready to wage war once again. And then, you had a few people with so why not us? I think it might have been a little in jest, maximum jest. But Mr. Thurman with trap is set, and then TK locked with the KSL season looming, which we did a little bit of that in our last pod with Nick and myself. And yeah, I don't disagree with the sentiment.
Yeah, you guys definitely can't hold back. Couldn't be bothered to wait until summer like tradition. I saw the script, so we'll see how it goes, but we'll avoid some of that at least for today because we did have the match to react to, which is always nice. So 3-word match reviews, gentlemen, over to you. Dan, what about you?
500 days, which, as I put on Twitter, if we are to get bounced by Real Madrid, and we are very unlikely to end up in a European spot or European qualifying spot by the end of the season, it will be a minimum of 500 days until Chelsea play in the Champions League again, pending qualification for a future season. So, yeah, that is not ideal. I will say there was one other runner-up, which if you've watched Succession recently, there was a phrase, not serious people. And that probably could be adapted to this as a not serious players.
Well, some of us haven't reactivated their subscription yet, so I'll go ahead and pause you there. Nick, what about you?
Done and dusted.
Essentially predictable. I said, oh no, Chile. Because he's unfortunately...
What is that accent, man?
Chile.
Boy, that's tough.
That's his French.
That's really tough.
It could be. My Joey Barton French.
Oh, boy.
Unfortunately, pretty much his day summed it up, I think, for the rest of us as fans. So he's probably pointing fingers in the locker room. And I think a lot of us are pointing fingers around as well. So we all went down with the ship, unfortunately, today. So anyways, huge shout outs to those of you on Patreon and have left us Apple Podcasts and Spotify reviews. We really do appreciate it. It helps grow the podcast in a big, big way. So if you want a shout out, go ahead, join up, drop us the 5-star. But we're going to jump into the match review. It was Real Madrid this past Wednesday, the 12th of April in the Champions League at Estadio Santiago Bernabeu. Real Madrid 2, Chelsea 0. Benzema 21st, Asensio 74th, done and dusted.
Didn't even realize that Asensio still played for them, so that was pretty neat. That was cool.
I was a little surprised looking at their roster, which we'll just touch in a second. But no fifth stand highlights, Champions League. They don't have the rights. So Dan, we can start with Chelsea's lineup. Obviously, Frank rested players against Villa. We knew that. So who did he choose to essentially do the one thing he was asked to do, the Champions League?
Kepa was between the sticks, and then it was the aforementioned individual who saw red, Ben Chilwell, Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, Wes Fofana, and Reece James as whichever site you're using for this with a back five. You had Kovacic, Fernandez, and Conte as your midfielders, and then Sterling and Joao Felix up front, question mark. Marc Cucurella, Kai Havertz, Trev Chalobah, Conor Gallagher, and Mason Mount all made appearances off the bench. Pulisic, Ziyech, Mudryk, Zakaria, Loftus-Cheek, Azpilicueta, Mendy did not make an appearance.
All right. Just going to let that sink in for a second before we move. Some of the high-level stats. Chelsea with 43% possession. We accumulated a 0.6 XG to Real Madrid's 2.29, which is a lot. We had 7 total shots there, 18. We had 2 big chances there, 4. We missed both of ours. They missed 3 of theirs. We had 10 fouls apiece, a few corners each, but other than that, the fact that we only had, we had 3 shots on target. We're there. We're in the hunt, just under 50% on that. They had 10 shots on target, 10 of 18 on the frame of the goal. Kepa having to make 8 saves on the day. Courtois making 3, but I would say he definitely kept them in it. And goalkeeping is definitely a difference between the two teams. Real quickly, emergency Phil on this one random stat off the Joe 10. Tonight was the first time Chelsea have faced 10 plus shots on target in a game, 10 in total, since August 2019 versus Liverpool, who had 11 in the second game of Frank Lampard's first spell as manager, with tonight being the game of his second spell. So, well, not great on his returns, unfortunately. Apparently we get absolutely peppered, and that's the way it went, Nick. But, on the balance, besides getting absolutely shellacked on shots, I guess it was close.
No, it wasn't.
If you just take out the shots,
If you take out the shots and the goals, you're right. It was
other than that,
close.
We were in it.
Yeah, that's a paddling. I believe we've used that on the show before. This is it's bad reading across the board. For large stretches of the game, the team looked scared. They looked inept. They couldn't connect many passes. There were a couple of bright patches. Obviously, I think we started the game relatively well, had a couple of really decent counterattack opportunities that broke Madrid's defense down very easily. But outside of that, Dan and Mason shot near the end of the game, which would have been a lift, obviously, if it would have went in, because any goal would be a lift for us. It just, these two teams are on different levels, and that's the story here.
4 matches in a row without a goal.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, can you win if you don't score a goal? Just a quick question.
Well, in the Champions League, technically you could advance.
It's true.
However, they did not follow my blueprint, which was just score 1 goal and defend for your lives. Didn't go to plan.
Almost did. Well, would have been nice if we converted early, but them's not how it broke. So, look, I think we just got to get into it a little bit. A lot to talk about on the lineup and how the game went. But before we do that, we're going to take our ad break. When we get back, all about the costly mistakes and the lineup. So thank the sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, gentlemen, Lampard was brought in to give us the best chance to advance in the Champions League. And man, he's setting himself up for a hell of a comeback in Stamford Bridge. Am I right? Yeah.
It would be a historic comeback if Chelsea win next week.
Oh my God. It's not happening.
But we're down to nothing at Dortmund.
It's like the scene in The Office where Jim gives Kevin the odds of like 10,000 to 1. And Kevin's like, you always say yes at 10,000 to 1.
I guess
fivers all around.
Man, there is no body of evidence to suggest
Correct.
that this is remotely feasible. Let's start with problems because it's fun. Clearly, Reece James is not Reece James right now, right? It's obvious. He has not played up to a standard that we know from him. And I think his injury It's probably worse than we originally thought. So that's one thing. Ben Chilwell, red card in this game because Cucurella was not defending anything, and Ben Chilwell had to make a last-ditch tackle. That was a clear red card. That's a problem because Cucurella is not a left wing back, and in episode 2 of this thrilling series, we're going to have to figure out who to play left wing. That's a future discussion. Kepa's not up for this. I don't know what else to say. I mean, Brandon said this earlier. The difference is very clear. Wes had a tough day, a really tough day. And I suppose
first half and he had a good second half.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it balanced out a little bit. I was again in the dentist for the second half and only relying on your guys' insights. So
Nick, is it odd that you could go to the dentist in the second half of a game and have a better time than somebody watching the actual match?
I have a brand new crown, man. Mouth feels great. I'm ready to go. And then the forwards. I mean, it's just frankly not good enough across the board. Joao misses an easy chance on the first counterattack of the game. Sterling should have buried his. And then, Mount had a tougher angle on his left-footed shot, but, again, probably could have been a goal. Look, man, I'm not the most positive person in the world. I don't think that anyone would mistake me for a ray of sunshine, but I mean, that's a lot of problems to overcome in a match against the defending European champions, who are a well-built, well-drilled Carlo Ancelotti team. They've had one manager this year. We've had 4. It's just, it wasn't as bad as Wolves, like the performance, I would say this, but it wasn't good. And now you have this 2-goal deficit to climb. And I posted in our Big Brains chat, we've only scored 2 goals in 4 of our last 22 matches. So,
Yeah. Look, I think this has kind of just been building. The hope was, right, that we unite.
Run. Yeah.
Well, we unite, step up to the challenge, play beyond ourselves, play beyond our means, because let's be honest, we've been average this season. As we all know, the only hope was that there would be a lift, just like there was against Dortmund. And look, we went down 1-0 against Dortmund. Team came back to the bridge, looked awesome. We had a bright start, but you can't go that long and not execute against a team this well. From a lineup perspective, Dan, look, he rested players against Villa. We know that Conte didn't play for that reason. We know Mount didn't play for that reason. A lot of these players did play though. And playing with Raheem Sterling, Joao Felix up top, a little bit interesting. I think our midfield, pretty conservative. I don't really see a lot going forward out of that group. And when N'Golo Kante does go forward, great. But we know there's no end result with him. Defenders can literally let him walk it into the box until they step to him. And so Silva coming back was a gamble that's probably worth taking. That's kind of how I look at the lineup.
It was a lineup that, in general, I think most people felt good about, in terms of there have been some requests to maybe drop Kai Havertz, who's been, like every other forward in this team, struggling to find the goals. So I think trying an alternative formation up front was a good idea in theory, made sense pretty much in terms of trying to play on the counter. Like we were getting over, like we were getting into positions. But when you had that, like what we saw last season and the season prior, is that having someone with the pace like Timo Werner to absolutely create a living nightmare for Real Madrid's defenders is something that was sorely missing. And when you look at the fact that...
Was that player on the bench potentially? Or...
pacey players who might be able to stretch the game. Might be one, might be two individuals who potentially could make that happen. In, either Pulisic or Mudryk would have been good options there to give us to create the additional width that we were looking for, as it just kept on getting tight. And once you had Camavinga on a yellow, like, I mean, I don't know. It just felt to me like that was a good sign initially. And you just sort of continue to attack that side and really try to make a difference. I think the problem was without a fully healthy Reece, it really didn't feel like he could commit himself as far forward as you would have hoped to at times. We did see that at the very end of the game, but it was a lot of mess. There's a lot of stuff that didn't feel like it worked right, that some of the people didn't play to necessarily the level that you would hope for when you have this type of game. And even last season with some of the performances still felt like it was kind of like a warrior effort to go out and try to win it. And this didn't feel like there was the drive or the intensity just based upon watching the performance.
So it's a lot of the same. I think it's a little bit ironic that we have a better team potentially today on paper, but we're worse than against Dortmund, right? Like if you had N'Golo Kante and Thiago Silva, you're like, oh, this is a better place to be, yet we didn't look as good. This just goes back to the freaking yo-yo-ness of this team. I think there's no air in the team whatsoever. And I get why. I mean, gentlemen, this season has been the most crazy, goofy, wonky thing ever. It's hard, like it's got to be hard for these players at this point. It's technically their fourth manager of the season. Everything is up in the air. We're starting to get serious reporting for Ornstein, who's around, who's not. It's hard for them to focus, let alone get excited to go play these games, apparently even in the Champions League. The subs coming in, Mason, Kai, Connor, Trevo, Kukurea. I think a lot of people are unhappy that Kukurea is the first name going in, especially when you could have put in Trev.
Yeah.
Mason, we don't know what his fitness is. Clearly, Frank likes Connor. Kai goes out because you don't really have everyone else. No Mudryk, no Pulisic. Players that can change the game. They're just not the ones that are getting chances. But if these are the same players going in, is surely Frank sees something as well. I think as fans, we're just confused, Nick. Like we see the end result and we go, why are we doing it again?
Massively confused. I mean, if Reece isn't 100% fit, able to go at Camavinga, who is not a left back, by the way.
No.
It would be as if we were starting.
Been having a very good season playing in a left back role for Real Madrid, to be fair.
Because he's a phenomenal footballer, but he's not a left back. So if you have any sort of inclination as to like attacking football, anything there, like that's a player that you could get at, especially on a yellow. You look at Ziyech being a right winger. He's played right wing back for us before. Maybe that's an option. You look at Pulisic, who I know people hate now, but he scored against Real Madrid in his career. Mykhailo Mudryk scored against Real Madrid earlier this season. Again, to Dan's lightning pace comment. If we don't have Kovacic at his best, why is Zakaria not seeing minutes when he's been really serviceable for us this season? Like Ruben, another right wing option potentially. The squad in the Champions League is fucking massive. It's basically everybody. And to trot out, I think, a couple of forward solutions that have not necessarily worked this season, to know that Reece isn't really healthy enough to do it, and you have the cover of Wesley Fofana's pace on the right-hand side. I think there's, we could second guess and Monday morning quarterback this all day, but I think there are some clear solutions that you could try in the squad, and, it's broke. So we have to fix it. This is not the opposite scenario. I'm really happy to see Mason back again. I was desperate for him to score that last minute opportunity, because I think it just would have lifted everybody.
Of course, it was Rudiger.
Of course it was. Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
Expected narrative through the roof this game. The one stat they don't tell you about in stat school.
The XN.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Either one. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It is a little frustrating. I think Frank's lineup today was better, certainly, than it was against Wolves, which was obviously hamstrung. but it's just the performances just haven't been good all year. We've had blips where they've been okay or even bordering on good. You know, if you think about the early Champions League matches, like that was us at our best, but it was fleeting and it hasn't been replicated since. And again, I'm curious, just like everybody else, kind of what happens now, because it's, I don't know, it feels a little without stakes after this result.
I mean, if you want a line to kind of draw in the sand here, Enzo Fernandez created more chances tonight, 2, than the rest of the entire Chelsea team combined, which was 1. Squawka goes, they've got Enzo in the middle.
Well, though.
What?
He didn't really play that well, though, from what I could see. He was fine, but
this is what I'm giving you. He was, the rest of the tweet goes, they've got Enzo in the middle and nothing else. That's kind of the point. He created more chances alone than the rest of the team. And that's not what you're looking for out of him.
The midfield was kind of scrambled eggs a little bit, wasn't it? I mean, it didn't hold that shape that we saw under 2 goals, 3-5-2. That's for sure. I don't know. Again, I'm speaking on my ass a little bit because I was in the dentist's office for the second half. So you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I didn't. I was seeing some chatter on Twitter that it was not Enzo's best day.
The complexion of it changed when. So the complexion really changed when Chilwell ended up getting sent off too, and that was probably the more interesting thing to me. Is that at that point it was like, hey, you're down 1-0. The goal now is to not concede another goal. Like you're not scoring, so the best thing that you can do is spend the remainder of the game, defend for your lives, and get out of this. And I think the most bizarre thing of the evening to me after that was the Cucurella sub in ahead of Chalobah. Like that was the wildest, or sorry, Trev came on afterwards. Cucurella came in for Koulibaly being injured. Koulibaly not being replaced by Chalobah was weird. And for it to be later to have the change be then Kai and Chalobah coming on was just odd, when you were also seeing that Joao Felix was not necessarily the solution up front. It's again, a lot of weird choices. Hopefully there's an opportunity to hit a little bit of a reset button for the start of the second tie, so second leg of this tie, where maybe if you get a goal early, again, I'm hoping for something that hasn't happened in 4 games. So I'm going against the trend line here, but get 1 goal, just get 1 goal in the first 20 minutes of the next match, and you maybe have a way back into this.
Can I read a couple of Lampard quotes?
Hit him.
I thought they were interesting. He was talking about
an extension. I loved it.
An extension. Yeah. I mean, I think he was a little bit more straightforward after this one, though. He says, I have mixed emotions. I think we were in the game. We could have done better. The system of the wingbacks, we could be more urgent. I could see the opportunity there. He said, I think it's a big challenge, team of the quality of Real Madrid. The door is open, I guess. It's up to us if we want to kick it open. And that is, I think, the spirit of this, right? Like, Chelsea Football Club are more than capable of scoring 2 goals in a match with the players that we have. It is up to them to kick the fucking door open. And I don't know why that hasn't happened. He talked about a little bit of lack of belief. The players need to understand how good they are and what they can do. Maybe we are a bit short on that in the minute. He blamed Cucurella and says he has to do his job. Now we lose a player like Chile, and that would have been big in the second leg. Like he came out and was pretty, I think we have always called him honest, but this was very honest. Like, the Cucurella thing was absurd. He cannot play the rest of the season for us, unfortunately. Like, I know he will, but it's just a disaster when he comes in. It's so scatterbrained, and I don't know how this goes any other way than him at the end of the season going out on loan or something, because it's tough.
Brandon, the thing we have to ask you as the card carrying member of the
Next
Goalkeepers
section.
Union.
I refuse.
Okay.
Push it to the next section then. Run the ad break, Jake. Run it.
What I will say is I think a lot of what you said, Nick, kind of does flow into the next section, but a tough season for every new player this season. And we brought a lot of them in. I was just texting Cody about the Kepa thing I sent you guys this still image, and he says it's a tough save for Kepa. It's low and hard, like to get down and get there. But he's just like, I get why the fans are upset. And he was like, from my perspective, he's like, Mendy absolutely deserves to get a chance at this point. And that's just the way it is as a goalkeeper. So it's been a tough season for everybody. It's been a tough season for the players that have come in brand new. But that's what they got to figure out. And they have not found the person to do that. And now we're scrambling as the season wraps up with a big deficit in the Champions League. So real quick, take a last ad break when we get back. We're going to talk about Brighton, talk about playing the youth. What do we do again at this weekend before the second leg? So thank you to sponsors, and we'll be right back. That's right. Damn, Brighton, who? Just play the youth. They're probably not even that good.
Some of them are certainly a whole lot more composed than other players that get an opportunity to feature at the moment. You have a lot of photos here of players that are available to us. And I think the thought here is that you would suggest us to put together a lineup for the match against Brighton. Is that what you'd like us to do?
I mean, I think that's the discussion, right? Because you know who needs to be rested. Do you rest players? Is it better them to get more minutes? I mean, these are like a part of the conversation that Lampard has to figure out, because it's also, what is your strategy for Madrid? Can you do anything at the weekend to help maybe plant ideas, give a system a little bit more of a baking? Or do you just, again, walk into that game and say, screw it, here's the chance, 11 guys, go figure it out?
Vibes does not work this season, so I don't think vibes is the answer.
Vibes are bad, but I think a carefully crafted plan could be in order here. May I go first in the lineup builder? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mendy.
You know, I just want to do section by section. We're doing goalkeeper.
That's fine. All right, let's do it. Goalkeeper, Mendy. Done.
Brandon? Sam said Slonina, CFC Central.
You're not starting Slonina in this.
I thought that was an interesting thing to say as well. I'm just saying he called for Slonina.
Unless Mendy is still hurt and is one of these players that is just on the bench to make it look like we have a backup, Mendy deserves to start.
Yeah.
If you're playing Mendy in the Champions League, you need to get him peppered with some shots this weekend before he goes.
Which will happen.
Are you saying he's not getting them in training?
Man.
I'm saying it's going to be better.
That's rough.
All right. Edu Mendy in goal. I'm just asking the question. I'm not stating anything.
Man.
Just a question. Backline. Right. It looks like Aspie's still out. You're no chance of you playing Silva. Koulibaly left with an injury. Chilwell suspended, so you might as well play him. He only played 55 minutes tonight. Like, he'll be fresh. Reese, you're not playing.
I got you. Ready? It is, for me anyway. We're doing the back five again. I think, pretty sure. Maybe I could be wrong, but I think it's Trev. I think it's Wes. I think it's Benoit, and I would put decent money on either Ruben or Ziyech at right wing back, and I would put really decent money on Chilwell playing because, of course, Brandon, you mentioned old Chilly's not necessarily available in the next match. So
you're not bringing in Lewis Hall. Maybe let Chilwell play left center back. Maybe slide Benoit. Gets a little goofy at that point.
I think you could bring in Lewis Hall for the left wing back role. I would imagine you probably just want to give Ben 45 minutes or so. So if you think Lewis Hall is going to play again in next week, yes, you should probably give him more time, but you shouldn't overexert him. So you could be anywhere 30 to 45 minutes for him as an option, depending upon how it's going.
I don't think Lewis Hall's in the Champions League roster. We have the full roster. I don't, he might be, but let's just assume he's probably not. unfortunately for him,
B list, I believe, because he's
Is
under
Yeah.
he's under under the other what was it,
Homegrown.
23, I think.
I just remember someone got booted at the end, but I guess it was not Ziyech. So, and anyways, the point being, like, the red card to Chilwell actually kind of like hurts his chances because Chilwell's fresh and he's not going to play the next game, so you might as well play him. I think the back five makes sense. If Aspie is back,
Hall and Webster and Chukwuemeka.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So, I mean, maybe I think that'd be a badass thing to go out there and play him at left wing back in the Real Madrid match. He's obviously playing with the dev squad. So, do you throw him in to get him some minutes maybe at the end of the game? I don't really know, but he might depend. I like if Aspie's healthy, even not, you almost have to look at a back four though, don't you? Chilwell and Trevo right wing back. Badiashile and
you mean right center back? Fofana
is your center backs.
I mean, you could do it back four. I mean, that's an option.
Aspie's. I almost like wish Aspie's healthy to give us a little bit of flex on that right side all of a sudden. Either way, we're putting together the most ugliest formation monster ever.
I mean, I guess here's the question. If this is all in service of Real Madrid prep, right? Do we think that Silva and Koulibaly are going to be back for Tuesday?
Imagine Silva would be. I don't think Koulibaly necessarily, is 100%, right? So like getting Trev some minutes again would probably not be the worst thing in the world.
You could say that,
considering how little football he's played.
Then I guess my question to you is: Are we more likely to line up with a back four against Madrid if Koulibaly is not available?
Well, considering we need to chase the game now, that changes the complexion of it, right?
It's and this is it. It's like this is in the pursuit of nothing, right? And Lamps did play back four his first game with Reece James, Fofana, Koulibaly, Cucurella is his back four against Wolves. We all saw how that went. Obviously not great for Cucurella out on the left. But the other guys did all right. So I'm just saying you could potentially see something like that. Let's, for argument's sake, say we need a middle two, maybe a middle three. N'Golo Kante is not playing. Absolutely not. Mason got some minutes tonight. If he's fit, he's always going to want to play. The more he plays, builds confidence, looks better. Connor's around. Do you play Enzo again, or do you give him the weekend off? Seems like he plays every single game.
I play Zakaria for sure. I think the midfield is, so if I already have Ruben and/or Ziyech as right wing and Chile at stroke Lewis as left wing, then I think my midfield is Zakaria and Enzo. Kovacic is not going to play. Chukwuemeka's hurt. I mean, Mason might end up in a front three. It might be a 3-4-3. So, yeah, I think that's what I got there.
Yeah. I think these are the decisions, especially in the midfield, where Lampard's going. What is his remit? All right. Are we going to start to kind of keep guys to the side? Are we going to bring people in? Connor's probably going to be around. Zakaria's on his way out. You probably just let him go. Maybe Ruben, you give him another shot. If Mason's healthy, obviously he's going in.
Zakaria does a different job than Connor, though, right? And like this is why I think I'm looking at the second leg of Real Madrid a little bit differently. I don't know, man. I don't get this. I don't get the sense Lamps is going to move from that midfield three for leg two, but I think there's a really compelling case to move Kovacic out and put Zakaria in as the base of that midfield and let N'Golo and Enzo move. So if that happens, if we see Zakaria at the weekend, it could be a precursor to that happening.
I'd agree. I mean, because he needs some minutes before he's potentially going to play because he hasn't had any. I mean, I don't remember the last time he played. Yeah. All right. Up top, look, I looked at like the last few results, guys. 5s and 6s, maybe 7s from the attack. It is the problem, right? I think we've seen enough out of Joao Felix to realize, is he a good player? Yeah, probably. Is he going to solve our biggest need? Nope. Therefore, thanks for the time. We think you're a good guy, but we can't go spending 70, 80 plus million on him as a luxury player when we have far bigger needs. And he just has not been able to put the ball in the back of the net, nor create the goals. And so like we shouldn't see him play. Like put Pulisic out there, put Mudryk out there, and put Madueke out there, and just let these speed merchants just run at Brighton. See what happens. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, you could play Aubameyang again a little bit, but like Kai should not play. I don't think Raheem should play, and I don't think Felix should play. If nothing else, to rest them, which is a great excuse because they're not doing it on the field.
Yeah, I would probably put if you're just like sparing people, then I'd throw Aubameyang and Pulisic in there and see what they could do. But if you're really looking at Madrid, you got to get Mudryk back in there.
Yeah.
And I think Mason and probably Kai. Like, I hate to say it, but I don't think you can take Kai into leg 2 if you're not going to play Felix and Sterling because they just weren't up for it. I don't think you can take Kai into leg 2 of Madrid at home without having played over the weekend.
Really? I mean, he's been playing top level football, soccer for a long time. You know, he did get some minutes tonight. I would like to think that a player like him could be rested, knowing that he's going to have to run his socks off against Madrid in the second leg.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see your point. I also think that a goal could ignite him too.
He clearly has a limited supply. We might as well save it.
A goal would ignite the entire team.
It's a real gamble, I know, but I don't know, man. It's a hard job. Frank has a really hard job at the weekend. I mean, I think I'm playing the same formation with Mason in there, and I think probably Mudryk and Aubameyang or Christian and Aubameyang up top, and just seeing kind of what they can do. But
you must treat it like a preseason where you make 3 subs at halftime and then a couple later in the game,
100%.
just so you get so you get as many bodies on the pitch as you can.
I mean,
look, you're going to have multiple games. You have 7 games after the Real Madrid match.
And we still have to cover 7 games.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's our prolonged preseason. There's 7 extra games this preseason that we're going to be going through, including such rivals as Arsenal, Man United, Man City, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, and Bournemouth, along with Brentford. Look, I think those are ones where you can go ultra experimental. You can figure out how you want to get as many of the players into the side, give multiple opportunities. Like, Frank, it is your bread and butter. Like, go to the U21s, go to the PL2 side, pick them up, just drop them right in the 11. Like, all that's perfectly fine. This match is getting people who need minutes for Madrid, like Mace and others, time so that they don't go in cold for this next match. Because that's it. The season in the Premier League is done. The only remaining game that has any meaning is this Champions League match.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a shit sandwich the way it goes when you just have so many players not performing, knowing that they probably don't want to get hurt before the end of the season. They want to keep all their options on the table. I remember last preseason, Nick, half the squad wanted to leave. And it just seemed like no one wanted to fight for the team. We actually might have regressed this season in like settling the team.
Might have.
I mean, you brought in a lot of new players, but it's like we're gonna,
my man. That's what we're doing.
We're gonna end this season in the same position last summer, where everyone goes, you know what? I'll listen. Just agent, I'm open to listening. I like Chelsea. And it's like, damn it, we have to do this song and dance all over again. And it sucks.
No, I mean, but it also shows, you know, as the preseason tour dates have been announced. And by the way, we're getting ready for that. Your boys will be around just note for the Premier League part of the tour that has been announced, at least, how important the fucking preseason is. You can't take that shit for granted. You can't start off as bad as we were at the start of this season and hope that you're going to turn it around midseason. The preseason is basically the coach's only time that he gets to just work on the basics with his team. The formation they're going to play, how players move. Like, yes, there's training throughout the week, and yes, there's a lot of stuff, but a lot of that's game prep. A lot of that is doing things for a specific purpose. Whoever is the manager next year. A lot of
sponsor activations too, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, but whoever's the manager has to take this preseason incredibly seriously. I mean, fuck.
Well, and it's also been planned without them. Not that they probably have much say at the end of the day, right? But like, it's another situation where they're coming in and being like, all right, I guess I got to take this into consideration. Obviously, they'll know that before they take the job. Chelsea have learned they're going to stay on the East Coast. They're not going to do this cross-continental, travel. I think it was Phil or someone tweeted that they're only going to be at like a third of the airfare miles traveled, and they're all going to be in a reasonably similar climate, which you have to assume will help because, I mean, they had a training camp base and then they had 3 other locations that they played in. I mean, it was a mess, but as we look at this lineup and Dan, you just look at the results. Brighton are a bit in form, especially when you compare it to Chelsea. We have no green bubbles. They have 3 green bubbles. De Zerbi wants to fight people. He almost got in a fight against Spurs last weekend. Like, they've had a week to prepare.
Well, but he's not on the touchline, right?
I actually think he might be avoiding a touchline ban.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So we get Frank and De Zerbi giving them the big one.
That would be amazing. I mean, it's a home game though, so hopefully
that is the nice thing. Thank God that it's like home game versus having to go to like, I don't know, the Midlands and like playing Wolves away in between this or something. Like, that is a nice thing. But either way, Dan, it's not looking peachy.
No, Brandon, it's not.
All right. Are you sad that you don't get to do the Dan of the match anymore?
Look,
it was a good run.
Sad
you
about
were on
a lot
though.
of things.
It's not the top of your sad list.
I'm just sad there's no goals.
All right. Well, you can continue the sad train. We lost 2-0 to Madrid. AC Milan beat Napoli 1-0. I believe a red card for Napoli as well. I think both games today had them. You guys can spot check me on that if you'd like. Yesterday, City absolutely smoking Bayern Munich away, and Inter Milan doing the business against Benfica away as well. So the other side kind of looks baked. Milan, Napoli, obviously that'll stay close. But you pretty much have to assume that Milan are going through and City are going through, just the way things go. So Chelsea are the only ones that can really pull an upset, and it doesn't look super likely. 5:38, Dan, they updated it right after the games.
Of course they did.
Just a dagger.
Well, look, we have a higher probability of advancing alongside Benfica over compared to Munich, who have a 5% probability of getting it back over City. And
yet they still have a better chance of winning it all than us. So,
it's because apparently they get to play us or Real Madrid. So True. I don't know how that math works. Look, with no Osimhen in the Napoli side, they are quite a different beast to play. And that definitely made it more difficult. So I don't know. This is a potentially like Milan derby in
the next round.
Wild.
That'd be crazy.
And like Inter are bad in the league too, but they're just finding a way in the tournament, which I was kind of hoping we would do. They also realizing how important it was to get Benfica in the draw. I mean, that, they got a penalty. Didn't seem like they labored too much, but they're 2-0 away. Not that the away goals rule counts anymore, but tough day out, gentlemen.
But goals count.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
Good for Lukaku, right? Crickets, sure. Absolute crickets. All right. We're going to wrap up there. We got a lot more coming at you this week as well. Don't worry. It's only halftime, as they say. Unlucky Chilwell took the red card for, our other guy. I can't even think right now. Cucurella. It's just those. Well, there was a take that he took it because he just didn't trust in Kepa and that we're doing a lot to protect him, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's 2-0. It's down. Lampard, he's going to make a rousing speech. He's going to give the team the best shot, but he's not working with a lot. The end of this season is absolutely capitulated. And at this point, it's just like, what can you squeeze out? And then the rest of the season, I don't know what to expect. But I think if and when we drop out of Champions League, I think Lamps is going to go super young with who plays the remainder of the games. So we'll see. Let us know what you thought. If you had a good 3-word match review that Dan forgot, go ahead and send it to him again. I'm sure he'd love to read it. But that's going to wrap for us. Until next time, Chess fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.